Good afternoon. First and foremost, I just want to apologize because I am currently stuck at a track meet. Um, just ran for state championship, so that's why I look like this and why you might hear the track in the background. Moving on. Today we're going to be talking about the minimum wage, whether it should or should not be raised. My stance is that it should not be raised, even though California did just raise the minimum wage. And right after they did that, my shop went from having 3 employees a shift to 1 employee a shift. Usually we would have 3 people working the floor because we could afford that. But after this minimum wage increase, we could no longer afford that, so we had to switch it back down to 1, which is, very detrimental to, in my opinion. Um, I think that people should care about this because you guys probably shop at local businesses. Ocean Beach is full of local businesses. K Sandwiches, Rose Donuts, those are all local businesses very close to San Diego Mesa. And with this minimum wage increase, they'll be able to staff less people, which means longer wait times. Um, they might have to hire their prices so they can afford to staff more people. There's just a whole lot of things that could that could happen with them. Um, I myself am the general manager of a local small business, Ocean Beach Surf and Skate. I'm actually wearing their sweatshirt right now. Um, Go OB. But so yeah, from personal experience, I have seen what this minimum wage increase has done to our economy, our health, our everything at the shop. I myself have also been living on minimum wage salary. Uh, about the first 6 months I lived in San Diego, I was making $13 an hour, working 50-hour weeks and all that. And so I know what it takes to work to live on minimum wage salary, and it is possible, and it is very doable in my opinion. You just have to be smart about your money, and sure, you might not have the nice luxuries of everyone else, but you got to give some things up if you're only working minimum wage. Increasing minimum wage is going to do 3 major things to our economy. First of all, it's going to decrease the workforce. It's going to majorly affect small businesses, and it's going to raise the cost of living. But first, we're going to talk about the effects on small businesses. Um, there was a case study done by Joseph J. Sabia. He's a professor of economics here not here, but locally at San Diego State University. Um, he did a case study interviewing all local businesses and retail businesses, so like Fashion Valley and stuff like that in the area. Um, and he uh, did a research study on minimum wage and the employment rates, and he found out in his quotes, these findings provide consistent evidence that minimum wage increases result in a significant decline in retail and small business employment. So clearly, just even in the San Diego area, these spikes in minimum wage decrease the employment, and it really hurts the small businesses. Another economic economist, Sudhir Chava. He's the National Bureau of Economic. He's the chairman of the National Bureau of Economic Research. Um, he said, and I quote, using interporal variation in whether a state's minimum wage is bound by federal rate and credit score data for approximately 15.2 million establishments for the period 1989 through 2013, we find that increases in federal minimum wage worsen the financial health of small businesses. So I know that was a lot to digest. And I would have a presentation aid here, but unfortunately I'm stuck at a track meet and thought I was going to be home. So all I can tell you is that they did a survey on about 15 million establishments over the past 30 years, and he came to find, the National Bureau of Economic Research came to find that federal minimum wage standards, so increased minimum wage, worsens financial health of small businesses. So again, it is very anti-beneficial to these small businesses to raise minimum wage. I personally don't want my small business to close. In a recent survey by the NFIB Research Center, the vast majority of small employers, 74%, report that they were negatively impacted by a federal government mandated $15 minimum wage. So even the owners of these small businesses don't want this $15 minimum wage because they themselves know that it won't impact them um, in the positive direction. It'll be negative for them. So they themselves are asking that they don't do this. Not only does raising the minimum wage attack businesses, but it also deters them from hiring. like I said earlier, because they have to spend more money towards employment, that now they cannot hire as many people. The higher the workforce, the higher the wage, the smaller the workforce. In the same case study done by Sabia in the San Diego area, he found a 10% increase of minimum wage is associated with a 4.6 to 4.9 decrease in teenage employment, meaning that the 10% increase in minimum wage leads to about a 10% decrease in employment in teenage employment. So yeah, we raised the price by the minimum wage by 10%, and people who get to keep their jobs make 10% more. But then 10% of those people are making 100% less. So it doesn't really match up in comparison there. It's way more expensive for these businesses to be running more employees at such a high price. A French economist, Pierre Cahouk, did another case study, and he said that when European small businesses increased employment, if minimum wage is binding, they increased minimum wage. They increased employment if minimum wage was binding and sufficiently low, but they have an opposite effect as minimum wage was sufficiently high, meaning that when the minimum wage was high, there was less people being hired, there was less money to go around these small businesses in Europe. So this isn't just a problem in San Diego, this is just a problem in America, this is a problem worldwide. Yeah, and then another economist with a notable PhD, Chong Uk Kim, he did a case study too, and he said he found that on average 10% increases in the minimum wage decrease employment by 0.07%, meaning that overall employment, not just teen employment, not just minimum wage employment, but increasing the minimum wage decreases total employment by about 1%, meaning that just increasing the minimum wage by 10% brings some of the workforce up 10%, but it brings 1% of the entire workforce completely out of work, and they lose all of their money, which to me doesn't seem like a fair trade-off. And then to add insult to injury, once these workers become unemployed, their cost of living also goes up. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, inflation is at an all-time high, almost 8.5% this year from last year, which is insane, and I know because of COVID it's probably ended up that way, but again, the National Bureau of the National Bureau of Labor Statistics is quoting that it's at an all-time high ever. That's not very good. The University of Stanford says that the increase in minimum wage drives the largest price increases for the poorest 20% of families. So increasing the minimum wage doesn't really hurt big corporate people, people with steady jobs, people who are making six figures, whatever. Increases in minimum wage really just impact the bottom 20% of families because, sure, they're making 10% more, but just as the California minimum wage went up like 6% this year, the the inflation is 8.5%, so they are making less money than they were last year in correlation, just based off of like the goods and products, like gas, for example. I'm from Ohio. Gas in Ohio is $3 right now. Minimum wage there is $8. Gas here is $6. Minimum wage here is $14. It's um, not equivalent at all. It's not rational, in my opinion. The last thing that cost of living increases is like rent. So the average average rent for an apartment in San Diego County, according to Rent Cafe, is $2,756, and minimum wage is $15. So if you're working a minimum wage job just to pay for that apartment, you would have to work 183 hours a month just to pay for rent, not talking about your phone bill and anything else, just to pay for rent. The average rent for an apartment in Columbus, Ohio is $1,096, and minimum wage is $9.30 an hour. So you don't have to work 117 hours. So you could either work 100 hours at a low minimum wage and afford the average rent, or you can work almost 200 hours at a high minimum wage, and then you can afford rent. And to me, that doesn't seem fair, doesn't seem balanced. So yeah, that is why you should not increase the minimum wage, because it hurts businesses, it hurts poor families, it hurts pretty much everyone. Yeah, thank you for listening today, and again, I apologize for the inconvenience of this all. Thank you.